a little over a week ago, Elon Musk ended up going on the Joe Rogan Experience. And the news story that I'm sure many of you have already heard of at this point is that he smoked a joint, a blunt, as they were saying. So they were, oh, a joint, is it a blunt, is it a cigar? As they were just like, I'll get to that in a second. They were talking on Rogan's show. He smoked some marijuana. He smoked some cannabis. He smoked some grass, some good old grass. He smoked some grass. And I don't know why I did like a southern accent for that. I apologize. I'm pretty sure the people who really mostly use that phrase are the really old school, like, 60s hippies and people like that. That's an older terminology. I've only heard people use it who are like of at least 50 years or older. 50 to at least 70, I think, is the range that I have in mind for like the people I know who have said grass instead of marijuana or reefer madness, which is what the news media went on this story of Elon Musk smoking on the Joe Rogan Experience. So he got on there, he smokes a joint, he smokes a blunt, and then, they talk about it for a little bit. There's this sort of sense of, foreshadowing where, Joe talks about, oh, so how do people get mad at you for this kind of thing? It's like, oh, I don't think you can do this kind of thing because stockholders and whatnot. And it's like, no, Elon doesn't care about what the stockholders think. I think Elon probably just cares about getting shit done, and he's gonna let his business actions speak for him. I think that's probably what's, really going on there with all this sort of pattering over Tesla and, oh, he's not the right fit. Oh, his stocks went down 9% because he was saying some random asinine thing on Twitter about privatizing and smoked a joint briefly afterward. I think that there's... let me wait for that one. Gotta save that point for later. Okay. But yeah, the media went fucking shit berserk on this. Like, oh, reefer madness, oh my goodness. CEO of a company, oh, you gotta set a good example for the children. Oh, he's not, oh, woe is me. You have to, like they're held to a different standard, these people. And, like, despite society having come along to the point where, like, 60% at least, 60 to 70%, depending on what studies or where you are in the country, are, pro legalization of marijuana at this point. Despite the majority being like with this marijuana thing at this point, the media is just like, oh, no. Despite it being a majority kind of thing, this is just a little too early for our CEOs to accept that kind of lifestyle. It's like, for all I know, there's probably like a lot of that culture that like is against like the consumption of alcohol too. It's like, clean lifestyles, you have to be the most upstanding, you have to have the most charming and charismatic, and Elon's not charismatic. Let's just go with that. Like, if you look at, like, I've only seen that one interview there, admittedly, but in that one interview, he seems like a bit of a more of like an anti-social engineer kind of character. Like, he's a nerd. He's focused, and I mean that in the best way. He's focused. He's passionate on whatever task he has at hand, and whatever creative sort of invention, whatever useful thing he wants to make next or societal. He's and I guess, as he said in the thing, to give back. I don't know. Who can say for sure how much of this is public image even still then? Even still with the antisocial thing. You can be an antisocial person and be, playing up the stage a little. just as possible as being an asshole to play up the stage, as we've seen with Donald Trump. None of this does not mean that he's genuine. You know, we tend to think, oh, if he's not a rigid politician, there's one way that we've seen lying politics go to, with his thumb pointed outward, then he's clearly, truly a real person who's telling the truth all the time. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's all sorts of other types of scammers and liars in our fucking society too. Still, guys, chill the fuck out. You know, it's like you can have the guy like hard like dead hard stereotype of a nerd, the glasses, everything thrown in his locker, all that stuff. No muscles whatsoever, zero muscle mass, because they only want to, they're this like one track muscle. You know, like, oh, just the brain. It's like, okay, you know, it's like, balance yourselves, please. You might find that it's even beneficial to your brain to do so, but you know, what do I know? Maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe you're the genius. But these guys can lie too. And so can the assholes, so it's totally possible, and let me get away from this tangent. Tangents. Yeah, and back to Elon. So he smoked the marijuana, he smoked the reefer, and the news media went crazy, and I still haven't gotten past that one point, because it's so ridiculous! But yeah, this is the CEOs obviously held to maybe a different standard than the rest of society, especially, I mean, if you look at business culture and the fact that there's still a lot of these policies sort of against, drug testing, against being able to have marijuana in your system, not actually being high at the time, but like it's in there like a month after you smoked it. You know, this drug testing, you have smoked marijuana in the last month, or, you know, the last 20 days, or the last 40 days, depending on your body. You're fired! And it's just it's corporate culture kind of thing that still hasn't come around to, you know, the changes in the social and scientific and, you know, health industries and the atmosphere here. Still hasn't really changed that much. I would hope that it's come around in terms of medicinal use. I know I've heard a few medicinal use stories that still get some form of reprimand or prosecution or ostracization in various places in the country, but I don't know if I've really heard that for like corporate positions yet, or like for positions in corporate businesses and whatnot. So I don't know. I don't know if that's come around. That'd be nice if it did, but at the very least, there is an example coming from Tesla, getting rid of an employee for what at least the employee claims, on an anecdotal level, is marijuana. The marijuana usage, as opposed to any other reason that this person could have been fired. So, to some degree, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there if Elon's, you know, smoking the joints as well. But I want to focus on a specific part of this, because I don't really care, when it comes down to it, I don't really care about the media. I care about some of the stuff that I can speculate on here. And Elon himself says something to this effect, so it's not like I'm really speculating a whole lot, but I'm sort of trying to put more of a definition on this. So Joe asks Elon afterward, he asks him, how much do you smoke marijuana? And Elon Musk says something along those, oh, not a lot, hardly ever, or something like that. Something along that, paraphrasing along those lines, hardly ever. It's like almost never, I think, was the almost never. As in, like, he's one word crossed out away from saying never. My hunch, if you really look at the video here, I think he's never done it. Or, at best, like, one time before. But I don't think he's ever done it. I don't think he's ever done it. You can kind of see, if you look from the very beginning, he has absolutely no connection to this whatsoever. So it starts out, and please go over to Joe Rogan's video and look at it. I don't think I have to point out this video to you, because after the media put it up, it became the most... I don't think I need to link it. Because after the media got on top of this, it became Joe Rogan's, like, top viewed video on YouTube, and it has, like, 13 million views. Which, you know, in YouTube standards, maybe that's not the biggest thing. I don't think it actually, no, probably not all the biggest thing when videos go viral, not even close. But it is a little more on the viral, at least somewhere on the viral scale for Joe Rogan, who gets, like, you know, a few million, most of his videos, what, 6 million? I think might be his average. Which is still pretty good, and going up to 13 million only like a week afterward, that's way better. That's way better, and I think it's like, what, probably like at least 4 million more than his other most popular video, which was like Neil deGrasse Tyson, followed by like some other things, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos. Some of those interviews were the ones that got like more views than most of his other videos did previous to Elon. But Elon totally doesn't know. So you can go find that yourself. It shouldn't be that hard. I'm not going to link it. Elon totally, I don't think he's smoked like almost ever. Because you got to go through to a few points in the video here. I'm just going to focus on them like in the order that they went. And so it started off with Joe talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. And Joe was talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, "Oh yeah, are you one of the..." So first was his guess. Are you one of those caseless guys with your phone? And then he starts talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson and how Neil deGrasse Tyson just flips around his phone and never drops it and stuff. And I think this is one of those moments where it gets a guy as curious as Elon kind of like thinking about things. So he's just like, at this point, the camera's away, but like it becomes clear that he's fiddling around with this little like skull, like Mexican like artwork skull thing on Joe's desk there, and he's just like looking at it and stuff like that. And then Joe, you know, before you see the camera pan back to him, Joe starts talking about it, and this is how you kind of know the reference back to it. He's just like, "Oh yeah, that like I keep that for blunts. Keep that. I got that to make blunts. No, I got that to make blunts. No, it doesn't roll blunts. To store them, but apparently it only stores one, which I agree with you, Joe, that's kind of lame. You really need something that's like, "Oh, there's like 20 in here!" Close it up. Well, maybe not 20. I don't know. 20 would be cool, but I feel like you couldn't go through that many that fast unless you're like, you know, a true stoner. like verging on like you're putting too much of this into your body on a daily basis. Like, you might want to check the harmless addiction sort of thing going on there at that point. But again, harmless addiction. Not really. I mean, let's do the science. Let's do more of the science, but enough of the science that's already out there is pretty telling. Telling enough to know that we can use it for medicinal purposes, and that recreationally, not better than alcohol or cigarettes or any of that other bullshit that we have right now. That's not going to go to prohibition anytime soon. I apologize for all the tangents, but I hope you're enjoying them. So he picks up the skull, and Joe's just like, "Yeah, that's for holding joints." And Joe pulls out a joint and like hands it to him to put into the thing to show him that only one of them can fit in there. And and then after he hands it back, Joe pulls it out, and it becomes this thing of like, oh, yep, I'll light this up right now. And here becomes the first compelling point of this. Elon asks, is that a joint? Is that a cigar? Or is that a joint or is that a cigar? That's not a great Elon impression, I apologize. But he asks if it's a joint or a cigar. If you smoke, and you see him pulling out this, like, I mean, it's a pre-wrapped blunt. But it's wrapped wide, you know, with narrow at the end. It's like, there are no cigars wrapped like that. If they are wrapped like that, don't buy them. They suck. I'm not a connoisseur on cigars, but I promise you, if it looks like a joint, and it actually has just tobacco in it, and it's a genuine cigar, it's probably not worth your time. It's clearly a joint. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's obviously a blunt. To anyone who ever smokes weed on a more than, like, mildly frequent, you know, even on a frequent basis, even on a mildly less than frequent basis, people who smoke probably know, like, they're starting to get enough of the culture of marijuana to know, you know, starting to get enough of an experience with how these things are put together, unless you're, like, really deprived and you've only ever seen it in, like a soda can with, like, a styrofoam over the top, with the styrofoam holes poked, not styrofoam, aluminum foil holes poked in. It's like, unless you're really desperate, unless you use an apple and throw it out every time, or eat it afterward. Sure, great ideas. At least I recommend the apple or the carrot chillum. Actually, don't do the carrot chillum. It's a neat little thing. It really is. But don't do the carrot chillum. Oh! Because you gotta do it right. And that's a lot harder to make than just, like, poking a few holes in an apple. Tangents! Tangents! You know, I just had to give up on this. If you're looking for something, like, cohesive, if you're looking to follow my line of thoughts, go elsewhere. Because I'm gonna wrap it back around. You just have to follow it around all the way around the circus, all the way across the world. My thoughts are going fucking crazy. And you won't know where it will go. So, back to Elon smoking a joint. So that's the first kind of hint. And you can kind of see in his body language and the way he's, like, laughing at certain points that he's not, like, totally, like, 100% comfortable with this. Like, he's not bothered by it either. But I think he's just maybe, like, a little bit of, like, peer pressure going on here. Because Joe's like, you want some? As he lights it up, it's like, you want a little puff? And he goes, ah! Like, I think that's what he went. It's like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's like pretty much a no, but like, I don't want to look lame. Like, totally think that that's what was going on there. It was just like, oh yeah, I don't want to say no. I want to be as, you know, in this little small social atmosphere I'm in, I want to look as like unassuming as possible. You know, I don't want to stand out too much with some disagreements here. Let's keep this all copacetic, and I'll just, like, take a little puff here. And he takes a little puff. And I really, like, not even like how, again, not even how most people smoke. And he's just like, first, like, well, actually, first thing, he gets the joint, he looks at it, this thing's, like, sizzling smoke up to the ceiling, this thing's lit, he sniffs it. I don't know about you, but if I'm ever gonna smell some marijuana, I'm not gonna do it when it's lit. I'm gonna like look at this thing beforehand and be like, ooh, look at this. Pretty good weed. Because I mean, like, if this thing's lit, like, all you're getting is that smoke aroma going into your face, and you're not getting, like, nearly as much of that fresh quality. And maybe I'm wrong about that, because I don't see a lot of stoners sniffing lit blunts. For God's sakes, I don't see a lot of stoners sniffing lit blunts. No, like this is my first, like, if not my second point here, that Elon has never touched one of these things before. Because this is like kid at a candy shop curiosity. Ooh, what does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Oh no, what does it taste like? Oh, And he has this look on his face of like, curiosity too. It's like this thought-provoked thing. Like he's genuinely having new thoughts on this joint he's putting in his mouth. Like this thing is not at all even close to common for him. And then, after he takes this puff, as I was going to say here, as a few people have pointed out in this, he doesn't even inhale this thing. He smokes it like a cigar, which probably is the extent of his experience with smoking any sort of thing whatsoever, is smoking a cigar. Because it just goes in, no more inhale, and then out, like immediately afterward. It's like, okay. Okay, like, are you, like, I mean, well, I guess he'd probably get a little high from that. And if you're really going for the, like, almost zero get, and, like, all the rest of it you're just wasting into the air, like, bye-bye! Least efficient way to economize on the intake of this marijuana that's like $60 an eighth. or whatever Joe gets it for. Maybe he gets it for free. Maybe he grows it himself. I don't know. If he does, good for you, Joe. But yeah. No way. No way he's done this before. No fucking way. Because then he even goes on, like, he's getting text messages. He's getting text messages, and I don't know if these are from, like, close friends or, like, PR, like, people. Why are you smoking weed on the Joe Rogan Experience? Like, what are you doing smoking weed? What are you doing? And that's not exactly, like, this is a text, so it's clearly not, like, necessarily, like, that's the tone that's coming at him. But he at least implies, to some degree, that if you sort of see the tone in the sort of dry tone in his voice, you get this sort of sense, I get this sense at least, that, like, these people are, like, severely uncomfortable. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You've never done this. You've never done this before. Elon, you were such a good boy. You were such a good boy. And now you've gotten into the drugs. What did I do wrong to you, son? You're a CEO of a company. Are you going to lose your job? Oh my goodness. And if he did, then be super retarded. But I think he's a little too, big to fail, at least for the foreseeable future. You know. And honestly, if that was the fail, I think that would be a huge catalyst for social change. Honestly, I think that this is sort of like one of those moments, socially defined moments to begin with. Because it's like, oh, this is like the first, like, big CEO of a large company that's just, like, straight out, like, smoking some marijuana, a spliff, technically, little tobacco, little weed, smoking a spliffy little blunt there, on a live streamed video recording in front of the whole entire world. I think that sets like a new sort of, maybe not a new standard, but at least like a new line that has been sort of moved. The bar has been moved. The line has been crossed. You know, at this point, maybe these CEOs can putz around a little more and be like, oh, well, only Elon did it, so technically we can still say it's very bad and don't do it, and certainly don't stream it onto live television if you're doing it. Oh, and no one's done it on cable yet. Which is really only going to be relevant for, 10 more years? Is this still relevant? I don't know. I mean, they're definitely still getting quite a lot of views from the older crowd at the very least. They still have a lot of the political draw and the clout in politics. But anyways, Elon totally not ever done this before. Because then he goes to the next point. After this whole, oh no, people are mad at me. People are like, why are you doing this, Elon? Why? Why? You're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. Why are you doing this on television? In front of everyone. It could just totally be a PR agent. In which case, like, whatever. It's like marketing some person in the company. Some person who's dealing with the public side of this stuff, you know? Oh. But after this, he goes to the point of like, oh, it's, not very productive. Not a very productive thing. It's like, on one side, I see this as totally like a possible thing that like people, use this stuff to sort of lay back on a couch and do nothing. At the same time, like, I really think that's a stereotype, because you can do just about anything. You can go on an adventure. I recommend it. I recommend going on an adventure. Get off that couch and, like, move your fucking ass and just, like, experience something that you never experienced before. I'm not saying, like, in a city or... I mean, if you're okay with being surrounded by hundreds of people, and like if you're into that too, you can go over that. But like, I would go with the whole like more natural setting. Maybe go cliff jump, go do something, go swim in a puddle. Don't swim in a puddle, a pond, and a lake. Little inlet. I don't know. Not a puddle. But yeah. So he sends out this sort of classic stereotype, which can easily be this thing of like, yep, like this very socially sort of brought on thing of like, well, Elon, you don't want to smoke marijuana because it's a very unproductive drug. You won't get any work done. First off, who's gonna work smoking in the first place? Who wants to be high while they're working in the first place? I mean, if your job's fun, and you can still be as efficient with it, you're not, like, dealing with chainsaws or something, yeah, maybe there's a logical reason for you to be like, yeah, I'd want to try that. But at the same time, like, if your employer doesn't want that crap, at the very least, if they have any right to control your life anywhere, it's probably while you're working for them. At the moment while you're working, I don't even know if I'd go that far. Well, no, I would. It's... I wouldn't go further. That's my point. Hell no. Hell no. Just let them be. But yeah, it just seems like one of those things where Elon's totally like being told, yep, it's not productive, and then Elon tells it to his other friends, and then everyone talks about it every now and then. The social atmosphere surrounding him is just like, yeah, it's just a very unproductive thing. Oh, you speak from experience. No, don't speak from experience. Just heard things. It's just like, you know, oh yeah, my friend's cousin sits on his ass all day on the couch and plays video games and smokes marijuana. So yeah, it's a very unproductive thing. Oh, great anecdotal evidence. Yep, plays games, yep, sits on the couch, smokes marijuana, watches movies, eats popcorn, gets the munchies, yeah, This is a total and complete representation of all the people who smoke marijuana, and that's a representation of the actual experience of the drug, the actual effects of the drug, and not the lifestyle of the person smoking it. It has nothing to do with their lifestyle. It has everything to do with the drug itself. Okay, you keep believing that. And then lastly, I sort of want to get to this point because I don't know if I've sold you on Elon is a complete noob if that wasn't his first time yet. Actually, let me finish off with that last point there. Last real point to sell it to you here. So he says that, like, yeah, almost never. I've almost never smoked it. This, to me, is just another one of those things where you don't want to upset the sort of the social atmosphere anymore. And you are, you know, like, just want to, like, behind the radar, just, I'm chill, I'm here, you know, kind of reaction. Like, it just seems so much like that to me, where it's like, even in this moment, he's still doing it. Because think about that. What would happen if he had said, oh, this is the first time I've ever done it? Joe would freak out. Really? I don't know. Like, it's like, you know, like this sort of joy of someone taking someone's, like, first experience of something. It's like people, certainly they do that with children. I know people do that with sex and stuff like that. And I know people do that with marijuana too. I don't know if Joe's the type of person who would do that. Would be like, oh, I took your weed virginity. Keep in mind, this is completely different than what I'm saying with the children thing. I'm more so saying, like, their first experiences, yes, they're virgin to them, but don't want to tie any weird, creepy sex stuff to that. When a kid gets his first experience and a parent is like, oh, awesome! That, you know, the excitement in the kid that becomes the excitement in the parent. This experience that I have no knowledge with myself, but I've heard about anecdotally from lots of parents, is very similar because it's all about first experiences. I don't think Elon would want that kind of attention. If it was his first time, he would not want that kind of attention. Especially not when it's on a live broadcast in front of 13 million people at this point. So he had got to play it off cool, like, oh yeah. And honestly, he's probably more of an honest guy, so instead of saying never, he just throws a, oh yeah, almost never in there. Almost never. You know, it's almost a white lie, you know? You take out the almost, and you have the truth. That could have totally been Elon Musk's first puff. Now, I don't know what was going on with the room at the time. But the other thing I find interesting, and almost sort of that speculation towards, I don't even know if you could call it, it's not a conspiracy now. And there's a speculation towards completely unverified anything. Well, yeah, no, I am saying conspiracy. A plot! The plot thickens. A plot here, a plot, alright? Focus with me, a plot. I'm getting too riled up here. But a plot. You notice, Joe takes this thing out, smokes it, passes it along, goes to Elon, goes I think back to Joe and then over to Jamie. And then after that, where does it go? It disappears. They stop. They like drop it, you know? Put it out, put it away. We're done here. Just give him one little go. So this could totally be a thing where Joe sort of has gathered the atmosphere and he's just like, yeah, Elon's probably never done this before. Better just like let him settle on one little thing, see how he's doing, you know? And that's probably the more likely one here, but I at least want to put out the fun one that all these crazy fucks are gonna believe, like, wholeheartedly if they ever get into something like this. But, you know, Alex Jones type of crowd. And I don't want them, believe me. But I think it's fun, my god. Some of these ones, if harmless, should be fun. But yeah, what if it was a plot? What if, because this thing was put out and only one thing was passed around, it was like choreographed. It was intentionally planned from the very beginning that they would be doing that. And maybe they put in this believable lead into it, and then they smoke one little hit of it, and then they're like, okay, the deed is done. Put it out now. We have brainwashed the electorate. No, I don't want those people. We have convinced them that marijuana is something that CEOs do. No, I don't know. I don't know. It could have been. I'm more so point with like thinking it could have been like a business strategy. Now I don't know what kind of business strategy this is. Could be this stocks up and down thing. I don't know if there's any logic to having stocks to go down to sort of then bolt them back up if you know your product's going to be a success. It'll maybe jump a little more afterward. Like intentional zuka. You know, up, down. Stocks high, stocks low. I don't know, stock crap. There could totally be some sort of business strategy here. Totally could be some sort of business strategy here where Elon is just like, well, if I make them mad for a few seconds, then I come out with the greatest thing ever, and a few weeks later, people will think I am an innovative genius. It's like, I am not afraid to do things that might be controversial. If I think that there's some sort of sound logic or effective thing behind them, and I can make money that way. And he's probably not going to make money through the marijuana, but at the very least it would sort of create that sort of persona, that sort of brand for the business world. In general, I think maybe that's just the brand, whether he intentionally puts it out there or not. I think that's just kind of what he's doing. I don't know the guy very well, but from what I've seen, that kind of sounds like what he's doing. You know, put out a product, do something real useful, see how the world goes with it. Yeah. But my goodness, what if it was a plot? Joe and him just got in at the very beginning and then they were like, alright, so how are we going to do this, Elon? And Elon's like, well, perhaps we can have some sort of lead into it. Perhaps we can have some sort of lead into it, like some sort of connection to the topic of marijuana, to which then we can just randomly pull out this thing and be like, you want to take a little puff? And then and then it goes around and takes a puff and then we just put it out. And Joe's like, oh, that's a great idea. How about we use this cool little skull? I'll say something that might bring you to some sort of interest to this little skull. You'll pick it up, you'll look at it, you'll see what's going on with this. And I'll say, I put joints in there. And then we'll go onward and forward to this sort of dealing we have, this grand conspiracy. But that's all I have for you guys. Fun speculation and really interesting stuff going on with Joe and Elon and the marijuana world and the news media that's just like, oh dear, he's smoking marijuana. Are we gonna die? I think we're gonna die. The world is ending.